Oh, Indian Vasily is there. Okay. Hi, Indian.
Delegate.
Recording in progress.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Greenbelt City Council to order. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Ms. Nixon,
Here.
Ms. McKinney,
Here.
Ms. Pompey,
Here.
Ms. Pope,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Ms. Weaver,
Here.
Mayor Jordan.
Well, thank you so much. Let's pause, as we always do, to reflect on several residents, former residents, or others that have passed away since the last council meeting. Of course, Pope Francis, and also Mary Lou Williams' son-in-law, Brantley Tillman Jolly. Let's pause for a moment of silent reflection. Thank you, thank you. So at this time, Mayor Pro Tem, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one
And I'll go ahead and share the community pledge. The strength of Greenbelt is diverse people living together in a spirit of cooperation. We celebrate all people. By sharing together, we are all enriched. We strive to be a respectful, welcoming community that is open, accessible, fair, and safe. Okay. So we are opening up the meeting with petitions and requests. It's an opportunity for individuals to make a statement or to ask a question of the administration. These petitions are recorded by the city clerk on a spreadsheet and are responded to in an expedient amount of time. It depends on the question, really. So if you're in the room and you would like to make a statement, if you raise your hand after being recognized, you can go over to the podium. You'd have 5 minutes to make a statement. If you are on Zoom, you can use the Q&A tab to submit a written statement, or if you raise your virtual hand, we can take it from there. And finally, if you're watching on cable television or live streaming, you can send us an email. The email address is questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Are there any petitions or requests? Yes, please. Welcome. And if you could state your name and where you live in the area, we need that for the minutes.
Yes, thank you. Hello, my name is Sonia Park, and I live in Lerner University Apartments. I've been a Greenbelt resident for more than 4 years. I want to talk to you about an incident that happened yesterday at the Bariatic Lake Park. I was walking my dog yesterday at 6 p.m., and a bunch of teenagers threatened to rape, kill, and cut my dog into pieces. I was scared, so I went home, put my dog away, and I called the police. The police came to the park and chased the kids away. I asked the police why they didn't identify or catch the kids, and they said that it was protected speech to rape, kill, and chop my dog, and nobody actually got hurt. I pointed out that where the kids' parents were and asked the police to at least let them know that this happened. The police just drove away. So I called the police again, and another officer showed up and told me that if I were scared, I would just stay home. I asked the police for help, and they did not offer any help. Instead, they victim shamed me. I want the police officers to explain for their behaviors. In addition, I think there should be some rules in the park, especially if someone is acting verbally or physically violent, no matter their age. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry that this has happened to you. City Manager Somerone, you'll get to the bottom. Did you get the badge numbers or any information on the police officer?
I didn't get any badge numbers,
That's okay.
but
That's fine.
I can identify the police officers on the website.
City Manager?
I've spoken with the citizen, Mayor, and I've advised the process that we have. We have
One, let me start off with I had a conversation with the resident. I apologize for the incident, not just for the police officers, but that our kids and parents would allow such thing to happen. So I'm sorry that happened to you. I've asked the resident to write the incident, follow up with me directly. I've also outlined the various methods that we have for filing a complaint, including the internal affairs process that's available at the police department website. And the resident has agreed to submit the concern in writing so that I may follow up with the incident. Do you have any questions for me since we spoke?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Clearly, what you've described is completely unacceptable, so we'll get to the bottom of this.
All right.
Thank you for bringing it to council's attention.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Our apologies. It's very, very sad to hear something like this to happen at the park. And I frequent the park myself, so I'm concerned about it. So, but hopefully we can get to the bottom of this and find a solution. Thank you.
Any other petitions or requests? Hearing none, let us move to the next. This is a very serious matter, so definitely process. Can you concisely describe the process?
Sure. There are various ways to express concerns. One, obviously, the council meeting, and they're recorded, and we then refer them for follow-up. The police has two forms of receiving concerns. There's a formal complaint process, and then there's an inquiry process, and that's available through the police department website, through our website. In those, depending on the type of concern, there are particular procedures that are followed. If it's a policy violation versus what is a customer service concerns, an officer being rude may not be a law or policy violation, but it's a polite and courteous issue. And it just so happens that tonight we'll be talking about the community survey. That is a question that we ask of all their departments. Are their interactions with our department polite and courteous and respectful? So the police department has that internal affairs process. The complaints that are submitted to the police department are also available to oversight boards that oversee the activities of the police department, including myself. Then there are the inquiries that come through my office. Residents are welcome to submit complaints directly to my office, and then we investigate them in my office.
Yeah, in your role as city manager, you are also the chief public safety
Correct.
officer, where the police chief and the police department actually report to you.
Correct.
So, and in this process you've described, it's possible to kind of escalate from one level to another. So we'll definitely get to the bottom of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's going to bring us to the consent agenda. Are there any modifications to the consent agenda? Hearing none, could I please have a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Niesel has seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That measure passes. And that would bring us to the agenda itself. Are there any modifications to the agenda as presented? I think we're going to move a couple of things around, but
Do you
let's
want to do that by special order?
let's do that by special order. So could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
And is there a second? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that measure passes as well. So now we will move to the communications section of the agenda. And the first item is a proclamation for National Volunteer Month. So I'm going to present a proclamation. The month of April is, in fact, National Volunteer Month. And the theme of National Volunteer Month 2025 is Volunteers Make Waves. So we've got several representatives of the Greenbelt Intergenerational Volunteer Exchange with us, and Crystal Beatty also representing GIVES. If you could come up a little bit closer and stand here, I'll read the proclamation to you. You can accept it as I read it. Welcome. Whereas the city of Greenbelt has a proud tradition of civic engagement and community service, and recognizes the essential role that volunteers play in strengthening the fabric of our city. And whereas National Volunteer Month is an opportunity to celebrate and honor the individuals who dedicate their time, talent, and energy to making a positive impact in our neighborhoods, schools, nonprofits, and government. And whereas the City of Greenbelt is fortunate to benefit from hundreds of volunteers who contribute in countless ways, from supporting local food banks, environmental initiatives, to serving on advisory boards and assisting the city programs and events. And whereas these selfless individuals exemplify the spirit of Greenbelt through their generosity, commitment, and willingness to uplift others and address community needs. And whereas the theme for National Volunteer Month in 2025 is Volunteers Make Waves, which celebrates the power of volunteers in making a difference and creating positive change within the city of Greenbelt and beyond. Now, therefore, I, Emmett V. Jordan, by the authority vested in me by the residents and City Council of Greenbelt, Maryland, do hereby proclaim the month of April as National Volunteer Month and urge all of our residents to recognize volunteers' crucial role in our community and find ways to give back. So I'd like to present this to you. And if you guys would come up and turn that way, we can get a picture. Who knows, the Greenbelt News Review might even print the picture.
Yes, of course.
So congratulations. Here's one for Krista. Here's one for the food district. So if you guys would like to go to the podium and say a little bit about GIVES and the importance of volunteerism, those are different though.
While they're getting up to the podium, I want to give a shout out to GIVES. They are an incredible resource here in Greenbelt, and I would encourage anyone who has a little extra time in their schedule to reach out about providing rides or other services for Greenbelters who need it. Or know that you can always join GIVES to get a ride. There was a recent post on Greenbelters where you guys got a shout out. So really, volunteers are the backbone of our community. So thank you guys all for what you do.
Hey, I'm not going to let them get off so easily.
While they're getting up to the podium.
Why don't you all go up there? And I know you're looking for volunteers, but it's not just, it's a two-way street. So some people don't really understand what GIVES can do for them and how to get involved and just how you feel as volunteers.
Okay.
Before we do that, though, I'm not sure the audio doesn't seem to be coming through on Zoom. We're getting multiple comments of they're not able to hear on Zoom, and the captions aren't on.
We'll straighten it out, but go ahead.
Okay. So, a little bit about GIVES.
Yep.
Okay. GIVES, Greenbelt Intergenerational Volunteer Exchange Service, started about 1925. I mean, not 1925. That's really long ago. 95. And we are a all volunteer service or organization and of neighbors helping neighbors. So whether you're a member or that needs services, or whether you're a member that would like to volunteer your services, we're all part of the same group. Okay. This person right here is Jean Cook.
Jean Cook.
She was a former president, also a volunteer of the year, right? Or a citizen of the year? 11 years. Yeah. Right. And I'm relatively new to the organization. I started in 2019. But what we do primarily is we offer rides to people who can't drive for whatever reason, physical disability, or just don't have a driver's license, whatever, that are seniors or have disabilities. We offer them rides to grocery store. A lot of them are medical appointments. We also offer in-person visits, so people who need a friendly visit. Okay, we offer that. We offer care of pets, like cats and dogs and things like that. When somebody has to go in the hospital unexpectedly, for example, and needs somebody to take care of their pet, then we'll do that. It's not the regular, you hire somebody to go out. This is just for emergency situations. And we also have our office staff that answer the phone and take requests. Okay. So what else should I say?
Well, I mean, you do these things, and there's no strings attached. So
Right.
people volunteer to give rides or to do a friendly visit or a number of things. There's a website that you can go to. What's that website? Or the phone number?
Greenbeltgives.org is a website. I think that's it. And and I don't know our telephone number. I don't call it all the time, so I don't know it. I have it on my phone.
So,
But do you know the phone number? Come on, help me out. It's 301-507 something or other. Oh, 6580. Okay, so we worked as a team to get the number together. And also speaking of teamwork, we work with Gail, okay, and collaborate with them and on several things. And want to speak with that? Okay, good. We'll stay up
good evening.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Crystal Beatty. I'm the Assistant Director for Greenbelt Cares in the GALE program. And the GALE program, which stands for Greenbelt Assistance and Living Program, could not do all of the great things that we're able to do without the volunteers of the city of Greenbelt. That's why I know the phone number for gifts, because we call. Many of the people that we serve within the city limits of Greenbelt need a little extra help. Sometimes it's ongoing, but in many instances, it's situational. Discharged from the hospital, may need a ride, pick up a prescription, or as she mentioned, make a phone call, a friendly call, or a visit. We currently have an initiative called SAIL, Seniors Avoiding Isolation and Loneliness. And we've partnered with Gives on that project to go into the homes of residents that have self-identified and are open to having a call or a visit. And we couldn't do it without Gives. So, and the other people within the city limits that have volunteered for this initiative. Our volunteers make Greenbelt great. So thank you all that volunteer, and we're always looking for more. So thank you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Volunteerism, the city government could not possibly do all the things that happen in Greenbelt on our own. So to Gives, to the food distribution volunteers that help out with the food distributions, the city's advisory boards, heck, we're looking for volunteers to serve on the charter review task force to get a good cross-section of people across the city. Just so many things and so many organizations, and sometimes it's hard for people to step up into those leadership positions, to join the board and take responsibility for moving things ahead. So volunteerism is really important, and I want to thank Councilmember McKinney for reminding me to do this. Councilmember McKinney, would you like to say anything about volunteerism?
One of the reasons, thank you, Mr. Mayor, thank you all for all of the service and your commitment to the city. And I also want to echo Councilmember Niesel's just remarks. We have an incredible amount of citizens who are so actively involved. I can't even express, we don't compare to other cities. And I just hope that other people will recognize that, and there are so many ways to get involved. And so just, if it's just a small thing, there are just so many opportunities. So thank you to the residents who are watching, and just keep up the good work. We couldn't do this work without you.
Yeah, it's really powerful. So let's start the volunteer wave.
Start at one end. I don't think we need to work on that.
Close enough. Hey, thanks for coming out tonight.
You have to warn us if you're going to try something like that so we can prepare.
You should practice first.
Practice. Okay, next up we've got our 2025 legislative session wrap-up briefing with our state legislature. We've got our State Senator Alonzo Washington along with Delegate Ann Healy and Delegate Nicole Williams here to provide an update on the 2025 General Assembly session. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all you do for the city of Greenbelt and for District 22 and for the entire state of Maryland. It's an awesome responsibility, and we're fortunate to have individuals like yourself who can fill those roles and put Greenbelt and District 22 in the place that it deserves to be. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the council, to the people of the great city of Greenbelt. Thank you for having us. It is a privilege and an honor to serve as your state senator representing you in Annapolis, along with my great team members who are here too, delegates Ann Haley and Nicole Williams, who is here. Ashanti Martinez is unable to make it today, but he sends his greetings, and I send it on his behalf as well. As you know, we came into the legislative session with a daunting task of balancing our budget, which in my almost 13 years of being in the state legislature, I've never seen a $3 billion deficit here in the state of Maryland. It's the first time I've seen it. I know Delegate Haley can speak to her time as well. But it was pretty significant, and it was one of the things that we had to really focus in on to be able to balance our budget so that we don't, make sure that we don't cut any services that are needed for our communities here in Prince George's County and around the state of Maryland. There was a lot on the chopping block, which I know a lot of folks heard about. One of them was DDA with our disabilities community. It was a potential cut of almost $500 million that was there. There were some cuts to Prince George's County. There were some cuts to our school system potentially that were there. And because of our team and because of the work that we've done, working in conjunction with our governor, we were able to fully balance our budget to be about $66.9 billion budget. And we were able to do that just by working really hard, getting our ducks in order. And we did that without raising any taxes on about 96% of Marylanders here in this great state. So that's a full accomplishment based on our work that we've done in the legislature. We did pass some really significant pieces of legislation. First, I want to thank everybody here for attending our town hall meeting that we had just last Saturday that I thought went extremely well. We had over, I think it was over 150 people. There were some folks that said it was about 100, but I think it was way more than that. And we had to pivot a little bit because we found out that the governor was eager to have the maglev train come here to Maryland, in which we all have been fighting for almost decades, but for me, at least the last eight or 7 years now in the legislature, along with my colleagues, and we had to pivot like we should do when it comes to imminent issues that affect our community, whether it's our environment or our public safety or anything or education. We should be able to pivot at a moment's notice, and that's exactly what we did. We turned our town hall, which I thought was a really great recap of the legislative session, into a rally against the maglev train, essentially holding our stance clear to the governor that we, as a delegation, and as many Marylanders from Baltimore City, from Anne Arundel County to Prince George's County, we all are not in support of building this maglev train here in the state of Maryland. It's not necessary. It's not going to be beneficial to everyday Marylanders. And I don't have to tell you all, but we had to reiterate those reasons to the governor again. We've had private conversations with the governor. We've had public conversations with the governor about our stance on it. And nothing's going to change our stance until they say it's not going to be built, and it's going to be built somewhere, maybe in Las Vegas to LA, which sounds great to me, which sounds fantastic. They should do it out there, but not here in Maryland. I even hear crickets that, D.C. is against it as well. So the idea of going from D.C. to New York just sounds like it's going to take a very long time. So we stand against it. I want to thank everybody that participated in it. I want to thank our community and you all for just standing with us and with your community here in Greenbelt against it. You all know that we propose legislation to make sure that there's no funding from the state that can be used for this train. at all. We're going to continue to propose it. Unfortunately, it does not go, it has not passed in the legislature. It does take some time for these things to happen. But I think once they realize this thing is about $15 billion and that they're going to ask the state for $5 more billion, that we'll probably get out of it. As you know, we see the purple line every single day, and we've seen what almost a disaster that has been in construction, but it has finally come to something, and that's one of the things that we helped fund this year, which we're really proud of. In the state budget, we did see about $500 million in additional transportation projects that does not include the maglev train. We did see about $100 million for the climate crisis that we allocated. We were able to make sure that we still had a $2.4 billion rainy day fund, too. Now, all the fiscal nerds out there know that that's a big deal. That helps us keep our ducks in a row. That helps to make sure we have our AAA bond rating. That ensures that we can borrow money and do different things as a state, and having that money there just in case, who knows, the federal government might cut off all funding to the state of Maryland. And we don't know. We don't know what's coming with this federal government and this administration. So we have to be prepared. Even so that we're even discussing behind the scenes and sometimes publicly that we might have to come back for a special session just in case they send something our way that we know that we have to pay for, whether it's education, our child care, or health care, or transportation funding that's coming here. We know they're dismantling the Department of Education, and they're already talking about, we already seen them renege on $400 million in funding to the state of Maryland that we've already planned on, that we've already spent. And they refuse to give us that money and send that money to Maryland. And so we're going through the thick of it. I'll talk about some pieces of legislation. Delegate Williams and I had a piece of legislation for my side, SB 997, to protect the $200 million that we've already allocated for the FBI relocation, headquarters relocation here in Greenbelt. We are still going to be optimistic. We cannot lay down the sword just yet. We see what that has taken us to when we lay down the sword, when the federal government has moved on with the Commander Stadium. They announced today that they're going to be moving in D.C. We can't let that happen here in Maryland. We can't let that happen to the FBI relocation of its headquarters here in Greenbelt, because we have to stay vigilant, just like we are with the maglev train. We can't let up on this one because we know that's a generational impact, generational change, generational investment here in our county that we're not going to see again. We're not going to see a $5 or $6 billion investment directly for Prince George's County from the federal government. You tell me the next time we're going to see something like that. We're not. And now we have lost the commanders to D.C. We can't lose this investment. So we got to continue to fight. So our team has been fighting for that. We've made sure we passed the bill to secure that $200 million so we can build that interchange here in Prince George's County and in Greenbelt. Absolutely. Just a few more things that I wanted to touch on. This group that I wish they were here, but they just left. One of the bills that we had passed was the Social Connections Program for our seniors. It does exactly what these seniors are doing here today. But it's through the Department of Aging here in the state of Maryland, where they will reach out and connect with folks that are interested, that need that support, need that help. And they're a godsend for doing that type of work and just checking on people, taking them to the grocery store or taking them to the pharmacy. That's what this bill would do. This bill has changed. This bill was updating the name of the program, also updating ways for folks can get engaged and get contacted by them. So they're going to be changing that program, because not only does Greenbelt is a special place. This program doesn't exist throughout our county. We need this program throughout the county. So the Department of Aging here in the state of Maryland is going to lead that program similar to what we're doing here in Greenbelt. On affordable housing, we passed the Housing for Jobs Act. In the state legislature, we passed legislation that increases affordable housing opportunities by equalizing the ratio of jobs to the amount of houses in Maryland. By setting a statewide housing goal for the state and ensuring that the working families have adequate and affordable housing by closing the regional housing infrastructure gap, the legislation aims to increase affordable housing options in areas where there are higher costs of living, which is our area. We know that we're growing. We know that the cost of living has been increased every year after year, and it's become unsustainable for a lot of families here in our area. And with the tariffs that we see, it's going to make building new homes and building new properties even more unaffordable here in our country and in our state. So we're taking a proactive approach to it, and we're going to make sure that bill did pass. There are some bills that I know Delegate Williams is going to talk about dealing with crime and safety. Just two more bills I wanted to just touch on, which was for the environment, for our environmentalists here in Greenbelt. We passed the RENEW Act, which requires a report on carbon emissions and assessing the long-term environmental impact by emissions, alongside analyzing what producers cause the most impact. Lastly, the Renewable Energy Certainty Act. It makes it easier to build renewable energy projects like solar and battery storage by removing unnecessary local roadblocks. Obviously, that's taking an aim sometimes here in Prince George's County about those roadblocks that exist here to build renewable energy. We know that we've seen it across our state, the increase in our utility bills, whether it's water, whether it's gas, whether it's electric. We've all felt the brunt of it, and so as our residents. We did pass some legislation to give some relief to our residents that live here in the state of Maryland by repurposing some of those dollars that we've collected from ratepayers. But that money is going to come directly back to the families in a sense of like rebates and things of that nature. So we're trying to help folks. It's really hard. We have to fight Pepco. We had to fight BGE. We had to fight Washington Gas. And it is tough sometimes being in the legislature and knowing that these folks have an ample amount of lobbyists. But we've done our due diligence to make sure we can stave off some new increases over the summer. I encourage everyone to make sure that they stay cool this summer, but also make sure they have energy projects, energy appliances that will work for them too. So with that, I have plenty of other things to talk about, but I know your mayor has a lot of questions for me. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, I was just, actually, Mr. Roberts has a question. I was just going to say, you've been a busy man, just all those things that you've listed, and you hardly left anything for the delegates to do at all.
No, that's not true, Mr. Mayor. There's a lot of more. We worked this session, brother. So there's a lot. There's a lot left. They're probably like, man, keep going.
Yeah, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, I wouldn't give up on the stadium issue either, because it still has to pass the council down in D.C. They probably, I think, are not going to get that $1 billion from the federal government that they're trying to get. So I think that's still in play, actually. So don't give up on it. Thank you.
The power of NFL. We've seen it a lot this weekend, so I don't know.
Well, let's hear from the.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Senator Washington's been doing so much. I guess you guys really didn't have to, work very hard.
Well, there was a lot going on this legislative session. We had over 1,500 bills that were introduced. I think about a little over 800 of those bills actually did pass. And so I wanted to kind of touch on some of the things that the senator did not touch on. For those who are watching, I'm Delegate Nicole Williams, one of your state delegates here for District 22. I have the honor of, in addition to being your delegate, also serving as chair of the Prince George's County House delegation. And so I'll focus a little bit on some Prince George's specific bills and then talk about some of the bills that passed out of the Judiciary Committee, which is the committee that I serve on, and I serve as chair of our Public Safety Subcommittee. So with our delegation, we are the second largest delegation in the Maryland General Assembly, and it's been my honor for the past year or so to serve as chair of the delegation. We had a couple of priorities. I would say one of our largest priorities was a piece of legislation that really doesn't affect District 22, but it was with regards to speed cameras along Route 210 in the southern part of Prince George's County, Maryland. Route 210 has unfortunately been designated as not only one of the worst roads in the state of Maryland, but one of the worst roads in the country. We have seen a number of fatalities over the years across that road, and so we were finally, after years and years, able to pass legislation to have installed enhanced speed camera monitoring along Route 10, which would issue tickets, not just simply merely for speeding, but the value of the ticket would increase proportionate to the amount of which the individual is driving. And so it is hopefully an effort to curtail reckless behavior along that road. That was something that we have been pushing for years as a delegation and was finally able to get it passed this particular session. Another piece of legislation, which wasn't necessarily a county-specific bill, but was sponsored both on the House and the Senate side by two Prince Georgians, was a bill that was introduced because we saw what was going on nationally and from the current administration with regards to the layoffs of federal employees. And so we passed legislation that would provide additional relief to individuals who were let go from the federal government on or after June 25th, 2025, and would provide additional financial assistance to those individuals in the form of a non-interest bearing loan that they could apply for from the state of Maryland. Governor Moore did just sign that bill last week. And so we were very happy to get that measure passed because we know that here in Prince George's County, we have roughly over 30,000 individuals who work for the federal government. If you include federal contractors, that number increases to about 70,000 residents here in Prince George's County who are employed in some fashion, form, or another by the federal government. And so we were very happy to see that bill pass. In terms of funding that we were able to secure for Prince George's County, we were able to secure over $180 million in capital funding, which is extraordinary given the fact that you heard the senator mention the $3 billion deficit that we were facing. We were able to secure $84 million towards educational facilities here in Prince George's County, $38 million for county hospitals and healthcare, including $20 million to Doctors Hospital right here in District 22 for their new obstetrician tower that they're seeking to install, and over $23 million in other economic investment and infrastructure improvements here for Prince George's County. And so while we were facing a lot in terms of the budget, we were still able to bring home back some funds here to Prince George's County. For the city of Greenbelt, we were able to secure $200,000 for the city of Greenbelt for elevator improvements here, and so which we were not able to necessarily do for every municipality in District 22. But you know, we were able to at least help the city of Greenbelt out in a very tough and challenging financial situation. With my other hat as serving on the Judiciary Committee, we were able to pass some significant legislation as it relates to criminal justice. One of those pieces of legislation that was passed is known as the Maryland Second Look Act. And that was a bill that had been introduced time and time again. And what it does, it provides an opportunity for individuals who are currently incarcerated to have a judge re-examine their sentence. It would apply to individuals who have been incarcerated for a minimum of 20 years and that were incarcerated at a time when they were between the ages of 18 to 24 years old. And the reason that age range was chosen is because we do understand with science that the brain development of individuals is not fully developed until they reach around the age of 24 and 25. And so, you know, I was 18 once. You all were 18 once. You might have done something at 18 or 19 years old that you probably wouldn't do today. And so this bill would allow individuals who are within that age bracket, who were convicted of anything except for life without parole, to have a judge re-examine their sentence. It's not an automatic get out of jail free card. There are various factors that the judge would have to look at, such as not only the time of incarceration, but the programs that they have participated in while they were incarcerated. Did they go and obtain an additional degree or get their GRD or something like that while they were incarcerated? They participate in any type of vocational training while they were incarcerated. Have they been ever reprimanded for bad behavior while they were incarcerated? Are some of the factors that a judge would have to look at in order to determine, I want to modify the person's sentence ordinance that is before me. And so that was a piece of legislation that we were finally able to get passed after years and years of its introduction. The other bill that we were able to get passed that I was proud to be the lead sponsor on and the floor leader of was a bill that dealt with immigration here in the state of Maryland. Immigration, we know, is a federal issue. And there's only but so much that we can do as a state in order to deal with the immigration policies that are coming out of Washington. But we were able to pass House Bill 1222, which was known as the Maryland Values Act. And with that bill does two things. One, it identifies what we will deem here in the state of Maryland as sensitive places. And it would require federal law enforcement officers to notify certain individuals of federal actions being taken at these sensitive locations, public schools, public libraries, places of state and local government. And that before an individual can come into one of these facilities, the Attorney General will be providing guidance to all of these facilities about how to interact with ICE, and that those areas would not be accessible necessarily to ICE everywhere within those facilities. It also would require that we protect the data of Marylanders with regards to any requests that they receive from immigration authorities, and that in order for us to provide any type of statistical or data information, they have to have a judicial warrant, that a detainer would not be sufficient, that we need something that has been signed off by a judge before we are willing to release that type of information for any person whose information we have within any of our state agencies. And so was really proud to sponsor both of those bills. I wasn't sponsored the Second Look Act, but I was a co-sponsor. Let me clarify. But really happy to support both of those pieces of legislation that was passed this session. And so, but there's more stuff to come, and so I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Delegate Ann Healy.
Welcome, Delegate Healy. It's great to see you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for doing this every year. This is really refreshing to be engaging with the municipalities, especially Greenbelt, which is so active and involved and has so many interests that is really important to have civic engagement. And so we appreciate that very much. Obviously, a lot has already been said, and I'm not going to try to repeat any of it. I'm going to try to, again, expand on some of the things that you might not have heard yet. But I do want to mention again, because the budget dominated the whole discussion of the whole term, it made it very difficult to pass any legislation that has what we call a fiscal note, that has any extra additional cost to the state. There were a few that were like really value related, that were supporting the values that we're trying to save. And we were very successful in saving some very important things, such as our education and DDA. And I want to thank especially somebody who grew up in Greenbelt, who is the chair of the Appropriations Committee. Ben Barnes is delegate. He's the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, but he is a Greenbelter. He grew up here. He lives now in College Park. He's in District 21, our neighbor, and he has been looking out for Prince George's County as well as for the whole state. And I think one of the reasons that we are doing so well in proportion to what's going on is because we have good leadership in the legislature, in both the House and the Senate. And I want to thank our senator for his work as well. Just a little bit of detail about what we saved in the blueprint. We really saved everything that affects the students in the classroom. The only thing that we did that will delay a little bit is allowing the teachers to have more time to do planning for their classes. And that has been delayed, but it's not been cut at all, because when the delay is over, it will pop right in at the full amount. One of the problems we have right now is we have a shortage of teachers and in the state. So it is, if we have to delay something, this might be the thing to do because of that, because the teachers we have really don't have the time. They're spread so thin that they really need to be in the classrooms right now. But that doesn't mean we're not doing anything for the teachers. We're making sure they're getting the increased pay that they're supposed to get. We're making sure that the students who have the greatest needs get the money that follows them into the classroom, the wraparound services for the community schools, the mental health care, all of those things. I know that if Delegate Martinez was here, he would be talking about all the things we did in the area of health. In addition to Luminous, which is fabulous that they're doing that capital project and to help support having babies in Prince George's County. We don't have enough obstetric beds in the state. In our county, people leave to have their babies elsewhere, and so it's a great thing that we're doing that. But we're also preserve telehealth access so that people can get that access to their doctors on the phone or online, because that was something that was an innovation during COVID. And it was done temporary. Now it's permanent. It's going to be there for people to be able to use as they need it. We established a Maryland Health Insurance Coverage Protection. We, again, don't know what the federal government is actually going to do. We're trying to be as proactive as we can to create cushions and do what we can to anticipate problems and provide solutions in advance of what we think might happen. We don't know, but we have a cushion. We hope we don't have to have a special session in the fall. But we don't also know what the federal government is actually going to be able to do. It's been so chaotic. They've done something, they've undone it, they come back and forth, and it's no way to run anything. But we have stability in Maryland. Our budget, again, we will probably be able to maintain our AAA bonds rating, which we've had for decades and decades. But because we're so dependent on the federal government, we don't know how that's all going to play out for sure. I had a couple of bills that I redid in order so they wouldn't cost anything, but could still change policy. One of them is to prioritize sidewalks and bike paths in the priority funding areas that are designated for the Vision Zero programs. That we have Vision Zero. It's a policy that's been in existence in the state for a while. It's to reduce fatalities and serious injuries because we have one of the worst records in the country in dealing with pedestrian and bicyclists getting hurt and killed in interactions with vehicles. And we have this program for Vision Zero, which means the zero deaths, and we're working on that. And there is a broad program, but my bill prioritizes the construction of sidewalks and bike paths in those areas, which are already designated by the local governments to show where the greatest need is. And it's on the governor's desk. It hasn't been signed yet, so I'm hoping that it will be. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. And the other bill that I had was my personal bill that was to create a statewide clearinghouse for missing persons. I tried to do this a couple of years to create a new dashboard, but that turned out to be too expensive. I discovered that we have a clearinghouse for missing children, but it was in the family law article, so it was very narrow. And I put in a bill to move it into public safety where it belongs and to expand it to include everyone who is missing in Maryland so that we know. Because you hear a report on the news and then you don't know whatever happened. Did the person get found? Did they die? Did they come back and be okay? So if we have this clearinghouse, it will be a place where the public and where the press can go and find out what's happening on an ongoing basis. And so I'm hopeful that too that passed, and it's also on the governor's desk. We have a lot going on, and again, we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. We have done a lot this year in spite of the fact that we had very little money to work with. I'd be happy to answer questions along with my colleagues.
Yeah, thank you so much. The sheer number of bills, 1,500 bills, and working through those during the legislative session and going back and forth between the House and the Senate and reconciling things and figuring out what the fiscal notes, what these things are going to cost. It's really amazing what you all do there at the State House for us. So really appreciate your ongoing advocacy. You're fighting for us with the maglev train, opposition to the maglev, and making sure that no public funds go towards this particular project. We're supportive of high-speed transportation in Greenbelt, but this particular project and the people who are putting it together and the cost and the pathway, it's just unacceptable the way that it just keeps getting shoved right down our throats. So, thank you for all of what you do there. With the the Maryland Municipal League, we have priorities that we put forward this year. One of them passed that had to do with allowing trained staff to review speed camera images and certify citations instead of having a sworn officer do that. That really saves us manpower and allows us to use our police department where they are most impactful, which is in the community. So we're grateful for your support. The other priority had to do with expanding municipal revenues with an admissions and amusement taxes. Sort of a tough year to be talking about taxes, but we're in a tough spot. There's just so much uncertainty, and for municipalities, we're dependent on what happens at the state level and the county level, and we're dependent also federal grants. So we really have not had alternatives, other ways of bringing more revenue in. We're trying to be very, very creative. So hopefully next year that will move forward. Want to pledge our support. We are always available to testify on bills and to write letters of support. And we'd like to do a better job of doing that with the prioritized state and pedestrian infrastructure on state highways. That sort of, we didn't, I don't think we got a letter of support in on that, but that's something that, it's a great need. Greenbelt Road and Kenilworth Avenue through that divide Greenbelt, being able to have safe access for bicycles and for pedestrians is very, very important.
It wasn't I had to do a lot of compromising so that it didn't cost anything. So I wanted to do much more, as you know, and in past years we tried to do something else. But we did have some small victory this year. And if I could just respond to the MML priority too, on the speed camera, instead of having a police officer take time off of being out in the community policing, and to allow that the local government to provide somebody who has proper training to do those citations. When the bill was started, there was a lot of hesitance. People weren't trusting the cameras, and there was more security in having a police officer who was sworn to do the evaluations. But people are much more comfortable now, and so I think it was time for that change, and it will be a help for all of the municipalities to take those police officers' salaries and have them spent on actual policing.
Hey, there was another, one of our aspirations. We have the capacity to do many things in the city of Greenbelt. So, we've been looking for opportunities to have a bit more planning, zoning authority. So I know that initiative, there was a couple of bills, and I understand that there's a task force that's going to be working to kind of study those issues. Have you heard anything about that? If we can get a representative from Greenbelt or from PGCMA, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, we can look into where that stands at this moment. If the bill just passed, they probably haven't started identifying the individuals to serve on that task force, but that's something we can certainly look into.
Council, you got questions? Yeah, please.
I do have a question for Delegate Williams, please, about your the Second Look Act.
Yes.
I see that you've already done all the research. There are 656 incarcerated individuals currently eligible for this.
Yes.
Will OPD be handling all of that casework for them, or will they have to file themselves? I'm just a little bit wondering if there's any way that people could help get this moving?
Yeah, either the OPD could file the motions on behalf of the individuals, or they can have a private attorney do that on their behalf. It's not an automatic motion. It is something that the incarcerated individual will have to proactively take the steps to move forward with filing the motions with the court and things like that. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Other questions or thoughts? Later on in the meeting, and you're certainly welcome to stay, we're going to be talking a bit about our legislative priorities in the coming year. Councilmember.
I just wanted to, thank our senator and our delegates for all the work that they did this year. There was a lot of bobbing and weaving that happened, because they were in session as all of these new executive orders were coming down, and they're trying to figure out how to combat those and how to protect our residents while still just trying to move through the bills that they had already planned on and had already put in. So I have a lot of admiration for all the work they did on that. It was pretty incredible, and I'm also just really grateful for the work that you all did to save the blueprint. As soon as I saw the governor's bill cutting the blueprint, I said, my delegates are not going to let that happen. I knew it. I knew you guys were going to fight for us. You really did. I know Delegate Barnes was a big part of that too, but I'm so grateful that we have a delegation that prioritizes education. The blueprint, and Senator Washington was a member of the Curran Commission. He knows the blueprint probably better than anyone. But I mean, it affects the whole state, but it is for Prince George's County. No county benefits more than Prince George's County from the blueprint. So I just really appreciate all the efforts that you guys put into that. And thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Councilwoman. And it was an honor to serve on the Curran Commission and see the blueprint for Maryland's future actually be implemented. One thing when we met with the governor, which we had a really great conversation about the priorities for District 22, one of the big things that I asked him to do was don't touch community schools. Do not touch our community schools funding. Don't touch the programming. We're going to make some upgrades to it because we need a year or two for it to be implemented. And unfortunately, that was the one thing that we saw him really cut significantly. And we could not stand by. Our Black Caucus stood up against it because those community schools impact Black and Brown students, mostly here in the state, by fully funding them or funding them at a higher level. And also one of the key pieces in that we helped stave off was ensuring that there was early childhood education access too. We've seen a significant increase of folks using that voucher that we created and we expanded. We've seen only about 25,000 people take advantage of it 2 years ago. So over almost 47,000 people families taking advantage of it now. And so that was one of the potential cuts in that. And we were able to make sure that didn't happen. And so it is a lot of work, but we wanted to make sure that those things were saved in this budget. I want to mention a few things. We were able to protect our federal workers by making sure they have access to jobs and resources here in the state. Too. So if you know a federal worker that was recently laid off, please send them to the Department of Labor, where we have a multitude of resources for them and to be able to help them get back on their feet and help them make sure they can, because a lot of these folks, they make good money and unfortunately their checks were cut. And so typically when you have when you get money from the state and those checks come in from the state when you're laid off, it's a percentage of what you would have received if in typical times. Now, under this piece of legislation we passed, they're almost paid full in what they have, so they can make sure. So that unemployment insurance is really important. Lastly, you have a great local management board here in Greenbelt that does fantastic work. Part of that work was making sure that they help juveniles that have mental health issues, and some of those in the budget was actually potentially going to be cut from here. And we're able to save that as well and make sure that this local management board here in Greenbelt was saved. They have a great advocacy, a great advocate in the work that they do here. So we do listen to our friends and families here locally on those types of issues. And so we encourage folks. We want to thank the mayor for coming up to the legislature to speak on the Maglev bill. And we encourage everyone back at home If you see a piece of legislation or you see our newsletters that we send out and you see some bills in there that you're saying, oh, I really want to speak on this, you can do it virtually, or you can do it, or you can come to Annapolis with us. But we encourage you to stay engaged through this process, especially in this climate where it's such uncertainty is at its highest level that we've seen in decades. So I want to just thank you all for having us too. I don't know, probably one more question.
Thank you so much. Council, any other questions?
Yeah, just it's actually a question. We're in some pretty trying times moving forward, and we want to make sure that we're being the best partners we possibly can. So, is there something that we can make sure that we're doing in preparation for if there is a special session or going into in preparation for next year?
Yeah, I think it's, first off, great question, Councilwoman. I encourage everybody here to be vigilant, to know what's happening in the news every single day. That's going to be you educating yourselves and therefore educating your constituents here in Greenbelt. Is going to be really important. Day to day, there's something different. We're hearing of a executive order that's going to come out soon about sanctuary cities. If it hasn't come out already, that's going to just target us as a community and as a county and as a state. And so we need to make sure we stay vigilant on that and see what else is coming from him. Apparently, the judiciary doesn't matter to him. So we got to do everything we can to protect ourselves here in Maryland. And I think vigilance is really important. And then when we send out something, please forward it to other folks, because we're going to try to keep our communities engaged through our emails, through things that we can technically communicate through with folks. And we want your partnership. If you see something that's a gap or a hole that's happening that potentially could affect Greenbelt, let us know ahead of time so we're prepared if we do need to go into session, that we can fight for you. I think that although different, I think that our annual pre-legislative meetings have been fantastic, and they have led to a significant increase in collaboration amongst our 7 municipalities here in our district, but also being able to hear from you directly on your priorities and how we can actually fund those priorities. And over the last 3 years since we've been doing this, we've seen record level of funding despite having a $3 billion deficit. We've been working our butts off for you because of us being fully prepared and working together and knowing everyone's priority within our district. So I think those meetings that we've had spearheaded have been significant, and they've been working. And I think that those types of communication and us communicating as not in silos, but as a community, how they're going to impact us. And I think that's really important for us to know.
Yeah, appreciate that. It's noteworthy we did not have a mid-session meeting with you guys, but we've been talking about maybe having a breakfast or something a little bit more focused, maybe earlier on. In fact, later on in tonight's meeting, we're going to be talking about some of our legislative priorities. So perhaps in August or early on, you might try and pull your coattails individually or collectively just to get feedback on the things that we're thinking. Hopefully that would work. Any other questions? We have a question from the public, though. Mr. Orleans, please.
Orleans resident. I want to applaud our senator, the 22nd District Senator and 3 delegates for any such good work that they were able to do this session, or such good work that they would have wanted to do this session, but for the fact that, as was described last Saturday, the legislature has a process. And I would suggest to these 3 present tonight, and to each of the 7 of you, and to the rest of Greenbelt, sometimes the Maryland General Assembly's process is a flawed process. The Maryland Municipal Association could support a specific introduction in this legislature. All 3 of our delegates and our senator could support that. A majority of the members of the House and the Senate could support that introduction. But if either the Speaker of the House of Delegates or the President of the Senate, or in some cases committee chairs, don't support it, it remains in the drawer. That is a flawed process. Now, there's little that I can do about it. There's maybe little even that Greenbelt Council could do about it. But there's a little bit more than the members of the House of Delegates in Maryland and the member of the Senate of Maryland could do about it. They have to be willing to do something about it. And thus far, sadly, from our 3 delegates and our senator, I don't see a willingness on their part to do something about it. But they should. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hey, once again, I just really, really want to thank you for all of your good work and, your accessibility when we do have a question or an issue. We know that you are very, very responsive, not just to the council, but the close working relationship between your staffs and our staff, Mr. Summerone, and various members of our staff are available to you. And it's a collaboration, it's a partnership. So thank you for all you do. So at this time, it looks like our legislative liaison, Mr. Carrington, is online. I don't see him in the room. But I wanted to suggest special ordering.
It's item 12.
Item 12, so that it is the next item on the agenda. I'd like to move that we special order item number 12 to the next item, which would be 7C. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. I should have paused for discussion. Ms. Pompey, was there a...
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's already 8:30. We have 2 public hearings on the agenda, and that we should really prioritize hearing from our residents. So that's why I think that we should not special order the legislative discussion. We should hear from our residents at these public hearings. I think that should be our priority. So.
Well, we've already taken a vote. You could make some motion if you want to.
Well, maybe we can just ask Mr. Carrington to be relatively brief and try to, since we just heard a lot about legislation, maybe, hopefully, he was on listening, so hopefully he can not go over anything that our delegates or senator already covered.
I appreciate that. Mr. Carrington, are you there? That sort of sounds out
I
of
am
character.
absolutely here, and Madam Vice Chair, I would absolutely be very quick. First of all, thank you very much for the accommodation to speak after your amazing delegation. For the record, Darrell Carrington, Carrington & Associates, LLC. It's an honor and a privilege to represent the city. You've had extraordinary wins, which you've already heard from your state delegation. It's been my honor to work with each one of them, and I've known each one of them for more than, except for Delegate Martine, at least 20 years. So we all work very closely together. Thankfully, where they can't be or I can be and the like, we're able to work very cooperatively. We're looking forward to giving you all your next year calendar so that we look at the end of the legislative session of sine die, but for our purposes, it starts the new legislative year. So you all heard all the things that have gone on. Our team responded to the city manager when he asked us to start reviewing some of the executive orders. We don't do them all, but we do the ones that we think may be most impactful to the city of Greenbelt. And we'll be more than happy to take any questions anyone has. You have all of our written reports, which we know are exhaustive, but we do that to make sure that you're aware every week of everything that's happening for all of your priority bills. And we're very pleased to have updated those reports and the like that make those more user-friendly for all of you. Thank you again for this privilege and this honor, and I'm here to take any questions that you might have right now.
Hey, well, thank you very much. I know it looks as though you are in your summer office there in Mexico. Is that right?
Yes, we're working from Hermosillo, Mexico, right now.
Well, fantastic. Hey, we're going to be an agenda item later in the meeting. We're beginning to talk about our legislative priorities for the next year. So you might want to, on YouTube, take a look at the discussion later on. And I certainly think that a number of the items you probably want to eyeball and can give us a good feel for perhaps how to frame some of the issues that we want to move forward. Are there questions from council to Mr. Carrington? Okay. Well, hearing none.
Mr. Mayor, if I might say, I'm looking forward when we're in person. I will come in, meet with the city manager, staff, and the like, so that we can talk about our priorities and make sure that we get ahead of the game for MML and the other summer conferences. Thank you again.
No, thank you so much. And be careful down there. Don't get too much sun or too much sleep.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, that's going to take us to the next item, which is a public hearing on the 2026 proposed budget. On March the 24th, 2025, the city manager presented the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 to the city council. Since then, council has held 5 work sessions to receive the budget and has another 5 scheduled before we contemplate approving and moving this budget forward, possibly with amendments. The proposed budget is available online at greenbeltmd.gov. That includes the agenda, material, recordings of the budget session. So the budget is, in fact, scheduled for adoption at the regular City Council meeting on June the 2nd, 2025. City Code requires that a public hearing be held on the budget prior to the adoption, 2 of them, in fact. Tonight's public hearing is the first of 2 that will be scheduled, that have been scheduled. The second is scheduled for Monday, May the 12th, 2026. So it's recommended that at this meeting we recess for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year budget 2026, and we'll reconvene following the hearing. Don't have to make a motion to begin or end the public hearing, but I'm going to bang the gavel just the same. This public hearing on the 2026 budget is open for public comment. Now, I don't know if anyone in the room wishes to make a comment, and we've also got a few people online. So I see that Robert Rand, you're there. Please go ahead.
Hi, excuse me. I'm Bob Rand, 19 Ridge Road. So I'm disappointed that the city's FY 2026 budget does not fund Tribacy Consulting for its Phase 3 proposal to help develop a practical roadmap to address the justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion issues uncovered in its Phase 1 efforts with city government and staff, and Phase 2 efforts, excuse me, within the community. In its Phase 2 report, recently accepted by the Council, Tribacy indicates that a comprehensive justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, JEDI, transformation for a local government like Greenbelt typically takes about 5 years. I believe that means we are in year 3. The key leadership for the equity audit and JEDI efforts has come from Tyra Smith, the city's DEI officer. She indicates in the budget that one of her goals for this fiscal year is to develop a DEI strategic plan, ensuring alignment with the findings from both audit phases. I would like to see her get Tribacy's support for that effort. This is critically important work. While there are efforts on many fronts to discredit DEI programs, the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion remain even more vitally important in our current moment when the administration and others seem committed to erasing racial equity achievements and advancements. I understand that the staff and council face challenging budget constraints this year, and that money for Tribacy would have to come from grants and contributions under miscellaneous funds, which supports recognition groups, advisory boards and committees, swim coaches, and other city grants. I also understand that Tribacy wants $38,000 for their Phase 3 services. I agree this would be a difficult stretch against the proposed $271,800 allocation for this part of the budget. I propose, alternatively, that staff negotiate for a smaller bridging contract with Tribacy, say $12,000 to $15,000, and recommit to full funding in next year's budget. That might be enough to provide vital support for Ms. Smith's strategic planning this year. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Orleans?
Thank you, Orleans. I don't have a specific comment to make about what's been heard thus far in the budget discussions. I do, however, have this to say. It's been suggested in years past, and it's been suggested on 2 or 3 occasions during this process over the last 3 or 4 weeks, that from budget work session to budget work session, as numbers fluctuate, as differences from the prepared draft budget emerge, copies of this continuing change in the draft budget should be available to the public on the table when they come to the next work session, so that they can keep a better track of what's changing in the proposed budget from week to week. I make that request again. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. I'm looking online. I don't see any hands raised online.
We do have one, but I think
Oh.
Mr. Stelmarone had his hand up maybe in response to that.
But it's a public hearing, so I'm not sure that it's appropriate at this time to respond, unless you think it's is it clarifying?
It's just providing some clarity that any changes made to the budget have to be approved by council and they come at the end. So while we've discussed budget numbers throughout the work sessions, we have not made changes to the budget.
Ms. Rosenthal has her hand up.
Ms. Rosenthal, are you there?
Yes. Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry my identity keeps changing depending on what computer I'm signed on as. I have kind of a civics question because I do plan to come to the next.
Well, it's not really a question and answer. If you want to make a statement,
Okay.
please do.
All right. Well, it's along the lines of what Mr. Orleans is saying. I am planning to come on May the 12th. That it's my understanding that for a person in Greenbelt to actually understand the budget process, they need to have attended all of the work sessions on each of the individual areas. And after doing that, then by tonight, they would have an opinion on some of those areas. But if a person is just entering the process now and they don't have the binder that Mr. Hartman has that's like 300 pages long, how would they know what to comment on? So that's part of it. And the other part is I can't see how many people are here tonight on Zoom and how many people are in the room. So I'm asking actually as a question, as a civics lesson, how can a person like myself participate tonight if I have not been attending every one of the work sessions and I do not have a binder that I've read from cover to cover? Is there a like 12-page version of the budget for the residents of the city so that we can show up at the next public hearing better informed?
Okay. I'm not seeing any other statements to be made, so I'll try and respond. The budget document, it's on the city's website. You can download it there. There is a summary cover letter from the city manager, which sort of hits the highlights. And all of our work sessions have been recorded on Zoom, cable TV, so it's possible to actually go back and look at the various sections, various work sessions that have taken place on the budget. I do that myself. And of course, with technology being what it is now, there's the different ways you could summarize things yourself. But if you, your question as far as civics, you really, we're in a new day now where it's possible to make recordings and to have things accessible through the web. So if you were to look at what we're doing now as opposed to how the budget was completed 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, I would argue that it's more accessible than it's ever been. So are there any, is there anyone else online?
No one else has their hand raised for this portion.
Okay. Well, seeing no more comments, I'm going to go ahead and close this public hearing. So as was stated initially, there are 5 additional work sessions to be held. The potential adoption of the budget could happen on June the 2nd, 2025. And there's another public hearing coming up on May the 12th. So I would urge anyone that is listening to talk with their neighbors and friends and acquaintances who live in the city of Greenbelt, and even those outside of Greenbelt, to kind of review the budget. The budget is a roadmap. It's the city manager's plan for what will happen in the city of Greenbelt. So this is very, very important, and that's why council spends a great deal of time as it's one of its primary responsibilities in reviewing and amending the city budget. So next up, we've got another public hearing, and this is the Charter Amendment Resolution. This is item number 7D, which is a public hearing, Charter Amendment Resolution to amend Section 3, quote, creation, qualifications, compensation, unquote, of the city charter to raise the compensation of the city council. So the city council salaries have not been increased, had not been increased since November of 2007. A salary increase was approved by the council during the fiscal year 2024 budget process. And there was administratively, there wasn't follow through to get this properly administratively recorded. So we're going back and doing that, and part of that is to hold to hold a public hearing on the City Council of Greenbelt Charter Amendment Resolution. This is Section 4, to revise the creation, qualifications, compensation section of the city charter to increase the compensation of the City Council. So I don't have to do anything to call the public hearing to order, but I'm going to bang the gavel and say that this public hearing is now open for comment. I see Mr. Orleans has a comment.
Bill Orleans, resident. In the last several months, council has reduced the number of meetings it has suggested that in work sessions the public should not be permitted to speak, has on a number of occasions continued the process of meeting in closed session more so than I at least believe it should. For those and other reasons, I maintain council does not merit an increase in compensation. However, facing reality, I expect tonight council will vote to increase the compensation, of course, effective the next council. But it should be understood that likely 6 of you who will be running for re-election and 1 of you running for election for the first time. So as you pass this ordinance tonight, you're doing so with the expectation that you yourselves will be receiving the benefit of this increased compensation. I don't know how to resolve this. I know how I would like to see it resolved, but I don't know how to resolve this from the perspective of someone who questions whether or not it's appropriate for council when it's understood that they're going to be running for the position they have now again, other than to suggest that maybe it should be a quasi-independent body of residents who can make an analysis based on the work council does, the amount of time it wastes in all of its meetings to determine whether an increase is merited or not. It's a good argument to say we've not had one in however many years it's been, since 2007. That's an insufficient argument in my mind. If it were up to me, council would still be receiving the $5,000 and $6,000 they received prior to 2007. But I recognize reality, so I guess we'll see what we see.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Let's see. I see that Judith Davis is online. Jay Davis, are you there?
Yes, I am. Jay Davis, Greenbelt East, and former council member for 30 years. Mr. Orleans likes to paint a very simple picture of what city council members do, and that's unfortunate because he knows better. Basically, city council people attend meetings, that's correct, and work sessions. But they also, if they are doing a proper job, and all of them are doing that, they need to go out and reach out to the community. They go to banquets, they go to luncheons, they go to farmers markets, they go to events, they talk with their constituents, they go to extra city events like plant a tree, or they're doing other things to clean up the environment. There are hours. If anyone wants to know how much time they spend, just look at the council activity list that is said at the end of every meeting. The work of a council member does not just center around meetings. It is after hours, it is preparation, it's meeting with elected officials, it's going to conferences, it's doing a lot of things, which if they are doing a correct and proper job, helps everyone in the city at some point. So yes, the money is definitely deserved and should have happened probably years ago while I was still on council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else online. Are there any additional comments? Any additional comments? Any additional comments? At this time, we'll close the public hearing. What I'd like to do next is I'd like to special order the accompanying item. That's special ordering item number 11 to come next on the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to do that. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So item number 11 is Charter Amendment Resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4, quote, creation, qualifications, compensation, unquote, of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council. And this would be for second reading and adoption. The council packet contains a resolution for the charter amendment concerning compensation adjustment for fiscal year 2024. Ms. Pope, you introduced this resolution for first reading at the February 24th regular meeting. So would you like to reintroduce this for second reading and approval?
Sure. I would like to introduce for second reading and adoption a charter amendment resolution of the Council of the City of Greenbelt to amend Section 4, creation, qualifications, compensation of the city charter to raise the compensation of the council.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion? Any discussion? Please go ahead.
Well, I think this is important to clarify, as this is just sort of because the council salary is in the city charter, that's why it requires a charter amendment. So this change was actually made and voted on by council in the budget for fiscal 24. So it's already been in place. It's just the proper charter amendment that should have happened then didn't happen. So we're sort of cleaning it up administratively. I think that's worth noting, that this is a change that was voted on by
during the last term.
During the last term. And actually, so I think that's just worth clarifying.
Okay, any additional discussion? Yeah, Mr. Summerall.
And I would just add to context that this is part of the review process that we went through in reviewing the charter and the city code, and we're updating a lot of things that need to be updated.
This came up in the charter, the code review.
Correct, because we were working on the recodification. We collected all the ordinances and charter amendments and seeing what needed to be updated, and this is how we caught this one.
Okay, Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Niesel?
Yes.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Pompey?
Yes.
Ms. Pope? Mr. Roberts?
No.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Mayor Jordan?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Hey, let's get back on track, more or less, and let's go to administrative reports next. Mr. Summerun, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor. I'm doing great. How are you all doing? Good evening.
Too bad.
Council. Good evening, residents. We've had quite the week. We've been really busy, and I appreciate all of council's support in coming out to the numerous activities. I don't know how you all did it, but you got through all of them. So just to highlight some of those events, we had wonderful Earth Day activity where Ashley Senator Washington was out there with his daughter. It's very supportive. We had the Toucher truck that was well attended, and I hope you all got to experience the voter engagement activities that we're planning. So very creative things that the team were working on. So we showcased them at Saturday's event, and we will build on those voter engagement and outreach activities. We just last week we also had the financial literacy workshop. That's enhancing our services through our constituent service coordinator position, delivering direct service to clients to our residents that need those types of activities. So we're working on the next one. We are working on a transition from nationwide. We're working on the announcements to get out. We are going to, part of that transition process, we will host a health fair for employees here. So we will showcase all the services that are available to our employees, health insurance, the employee assistance program, deferred compensation, all the benefits that we offer. Will have those vendors and the individuals that work directly on those programs here to serve our residents. Our employees. We'll also have a session with retirees on the benefits that council has very generous made available to retirees. That includes health insurance, prescription assistance, and the retirement plan support services. Our opera work continues. We're facing a deadline on April 30th, so that's in 2 days. Everything is in order. We're meeting all the benchmarks that we need to meet. We're preparing our transition of 30 cell phone lines from Verizon to T-Mobile. That's 30 out of the 120 that we currently have with Verizon. In terms of services, we expect better services for, like myself, I have a Verizon phone, but often struggle to get T-Mobile service right here.
We're getting a report that your mic doesn't seem to be working very well.
Okay,
There you go.
To speak directly into it. So we'll be transitioning 30 phone lines. The team has identified a process that we would set up the new phones, and the recipients of those 30 phones will schedule time for folks to come in, and we hope to be a seamless process where we've preloaded the phone so that when the individual turns on their own phone, we'll just do the switch over overnight or at the time that's convenient to that phone recipient. So council members, if we will arrange a time in the evening where you can pick up your new device, and in the middle of the night, the phone numbers would switch. So you would not lose access to your phone number.
So the phone number would stay the same?
The phone number is going to stay the same, correct. In terms of devising, everyone's getting the same phone that they have. Most folks are on Apple phones. So we will, if you do not have the latest phone, we'll get everyone the Apple 15s. And that's the latest for us, so not the, I don't know what version of iPhone we're now.
16.
16, okay, so not the latest, but latest that we can afford.
Close enough.
The CARES team and our economic development team doing a great job of preparing for the May 17th job fair. We have 11 employers registered. We'll continue to welcome more registration. We also have participants that want to register for the event, so we've been taking that registration. We have 95 participants registered. So, yeah, we're a couple weeks out from the job fair, and we're getting some registration. On the planning and public works side, you've seen I hope you've gotten a chance to see the new fancy stop signs that we have, so reminding folks that that's a stop sign, and you stop at the stop sign. In addition to that enhancement to those lights, we're also going to reevaluate numerous stop sign intersections that we evaluated during the automatic stop sign enforcement pilot program to see if those flashing lights have an impact on the driving behavior at those intersections. So that's going to be part of our data evaluation as we look to plan for that automatic stop sign enforcement activity. So we want to see what the level of impact has had, and does it merit revisiting that site. I have numerous other activities that are reported in our weekly report. I welcome questions.
All of the activities on Earth Day, it was just a phenomenal day. So I want to point out council threw out pitches, and I think I was the only one that actually threw a strike. It was a fastball. It was right down the center.
You were just lucky that I wasn't there, that's all. I mean, that's, you know.
But be that as it may, we had there was a small fire, I think, in Greenbelt. Has that been resolved a few days ago?
I'm sorry.
What, are you talking about the one across the street here?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yes, I reported that last week, I believe on Wednesday. There were 2 units that were affected. The unit where the fire took place, that's on the 2nd floor, and the unit below it due to the water damage. The unit on the 1st floor was vacant, so there's only one family that was displaced, one individual, and that individual has been relocated within the apartment complex.
Very good, very good. Was there any update, the previous, the fire over in Franklin Park, there were a number of people displaced. It's my understanding they had all been moved. Is there any follow-up or any of those individuals still
Correct.
getting settled in?
I would check with CARES to see what pending activities or service we have. The commitment we received that same day from Franklin Park is that all those residents will be relocated within the facility. And I understood that that was happening beginning that day. I checked with Giselle a few days later, and she confirmed that they will all be relocated within the complex. That's in addition to the support services that Red Cross did on site. Red Cross was called immediately by the fire department, and they were on scene by the time I left the scene in the morning. But I will ask the team to write a report, see where things are.
Very good. And there's just one more thing. I received a complaint from a constituent, and they were unhappy about the condition of the Greenbelt post office. They felt that the exterior needs some paint. The door has been inoperable, one of the doors, for several months. And for people that maybe their mobility is not so great, it's difficult for them to make their way inside. So I think our congressional delegation sometimes can be helpful with that, Senator Alsterbrook or Senator Van Hollen. Yeah.
We will send in the request to the postmaster and the delegation. Fortunately, those are things we don't have control over. We can send code to inspect and incite, but it's a federal property.
Member Tim.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, you mentioned CARES and the people who were displaced in the fire. I believe the roundup that at the checkout that the co-op grocery store has been doing, I believe, was to benefit the emergency fund. Can we ask CARES how we're doing on that balance? Because I know it was quite low at one point, and that seemed like a great effort to go into. But if we can just find out what we're up to in that emergency fund.
I'll ask for two things. I'll ask for what's our account balances on our end, and I'll reach out to the co-op to see how that's working on their end, since they're collecting the roundup.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hey, let's move on to item number 13, which is a proposal for use of space at the Armory site for composting. Ms. Pompey, we were talking about this, and we we tabled the item to this meeting, looking for some additional information from Green Aces, I believe.
That wasn't why. It was just because it was late.
No. Is that right?
Yeah, it was just late, and it wasn't urgent.
Well, so food scraps from the city's curbside composting program are currently processed at Trinity Assembly of God, Trinity Church, as a part of a local circular food waste system. The Compost Outpost, trademark, at Trinity Church serves about 440 homes and is limited by space. To expand capacity to 660 homes and lower the per home cost, it's proposed to use additional space at the Armory site, Southway and Greenbelt Road, to store the cure pile and conduct compost sifting twice a year. This would increase capacity with minimal changes to the existing compost outpost operations. So there was a memo that is attached to this. Can we bring the memo up on the screen, or City Manager Salmarone, can you just briefly run us through the timeline of this proposal and the cost?
There is no cost associated with the program. We're looking at using extended facility space where the compost can sit and cure. We're looking at staff being on site, and not necessarily city staff, but the compost crew staff being on site twice a year to turn over the pile. So we don't expect a lot of activity. It just needs additional overflow space. It would allow the program to expand from the 440 to the 600 homes. It will not cost the city more money. We have talked about the needs that the compost crew needs to process the compost. They need access to water and electricity for turning the material, but those are things that technology or equipment that can be brought in on site to do that work. Ideally, they will like access to water or water on site and electricity on site. I think that's one of those things we have to weigh. What's the cost benefit of installing that infrastructure if it's needed for this temporary use.
Yeah, and I was going to say that I'm okay with trying this out sort of as a demonstration or trial basis, maybe for a year, to see how it works out. I don't think it's the best and highest use of that site, but as we're kind of going back and forth trying to figure out what's going to happen at the Armory, this seems like something we can try out. It'll probably work out pretty well. So in order to codify this, would you need to sign, council would enable you to sign an MOU or sign an agreement, or does that happen? Is it just us voting, yeah, this is a good idea, let's try it?
It's really just a voice vote. From the use of the property on a temporary basis, we don't need an agreement with anyone else. This is our property, and this is an extension of our activities. One of the primary reasons to run this by council is that this is a use of the space, and as some, I don't remember what meeting was commented at, that this could be an eyesore or seen as a nuisance. I support this activity because it allows us to bring activity onto the site and deter the aspiring artists from putting up their artwork on a building and doing other things on site. It makes use of the property. It puts people on there, and I think it's a low impact activity. If you want an idea of what it looks like, you drive by it now. There's a mulch pile there that it's curing.
Two of them.
Two of them now. So, and that's our mulch pile, and it's there curing. And when it's cured, the team will take it and offsite and put it to use. I think you all are aware that we have a mulch pile problem. We generate more mulch than we use. We welcome people to take our mulch.
Yeah, and over at the French Immersion School, they want mulch. They need some mulch.
Yeah, we deliver mulch
They
on
need more.
Friday. Yes, we deliver
Actually, they
3
need
yards.
wood chips.
Yeah, and so what the mayor's referencing is that the Dora Kennedy School had their own cleanup activity on Saturdays, competed with both our Earth Day activities and our Touch a Truck. But we supported the activity in all the ways that we could. We deliver mulch. We deliver trash pickers, trash bags, and other tools. And yeah, our team's very supportive of that, given the busy schedule.
Member Tim.
Yeah, I think another thing that's worth noting is the compost crew will print up a banner to say what's happening there, to explain sort of what the piles are. And so, yeah, it would be activity a couple of times a week and then sifting the finished compost a couple of times a year. But I think that, and I think Green Aces understands this as, you know, sort of the process of this is not intended to interfere with any decisions we make about what the Armory will ultimately be. This is temporary, but the truth is it's going to take us a while to start any sort of work on the Armory. We're still just doing we haven't even finished sort of the brainstorming process for the Armory, let alone the actual design, let alone actual like construction. So I think it's understood that this would be temporary. So if there needs to be, you know, a revisit in a year or visit in 2 years, but I think Compost Crew and Green Aces, who are advocates for this, understand it is not intended to be permanent. Once we decide what to do with the Armory, this can shift somewhere else.
You're making a motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I'm not so in favor of a really big banner. I mean, with this, I don't know how big the banner would be. I could certainly see an interpretive sign or a smaller banner, but a really big banner. And the other thing is I don't know if it's possible. I mean, we're servicing the single-family homes, but I asked this before. Would it be possible for residents, condominiums, or apartments to actually bring their food scraps there themselves?
Not to this site, but they can bring them to Buddy Attic. And multifamily homes, that we actually do have at least one resident in Franklin Park who participates in the Compost Crew food scrap pickup. We haven't gotten a lot of folks, but it is not that they aren't able to participate in the pilot. It's just we haven't gotten as much interest. So this would not be a site that, I mean, I think be locked up so that it's not accessible to people. But people can always bring their food scraps to Buddy Attic. That's an existing site already. And people can sign up, and this would allow us to actually have more signups because we're at capacity. We're at 410, or capacity for the USDA grant. I think there technically would be 440 capacity without these changes, but this brings us up to 660. So this actually allows us to recruit more households, whether those are townhouses, single-family homes, or multifamily home residents who want to participate. This actually gives us the capacity to accommodate more people with the food scrap pickup, not the drop-off.
Yeah, unfortunately, the rules of some of the condominium or townhouse developments may not allow placing a container outside of a unit. So I was just asking, and it's kind of inconvenient. I've been taking my scraps over to Buddy Attic for quite some time. So not at this site and not at Trinity Church. The only site that's available for food scraps for other residents is Buddy Attic Park. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Hope we can do something about that, because it is kind of inconvenient. So there's a motion. There was a second. Please go ahead.
You said it's inconvenient. There are other sites you would like to expand?
If it was possible to actually take things to Trinity Church for residents in the east, that would be more convenient than coming over to Public Works. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll discuss with the crew. The concern is, how do we create another drop-off point and ensure that there's no other activities happening, right? We have the Hanover Recycling Center. I drove by it today. There's just household and construction bags in the recycling bins. Now I know why some of that is an issue now. The trailer was struck by a vehicle. We haven't replaced it, and we've moved the trailer that we have to the Shram Hills park because last week we anticipated a skip day activity. Fortunately, kids didn't come here. They went to Bowie. So we didn't have an issue there. So we don't have, the trailer camera has been a deterrent at that site. So how do we build a space that is safe to use and doesn't welcome other activities?
I think the food scraps are a little different. Of course, we have the food scrap composting site there at Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center for quite some time, although it's inactive now. It's just hard for people to come all the way from around Shram Hills Park and Greenbelt East all the way to Public Works. It's distance. I don't want to delay this, so let's go ahead.
Well, there is one resident hand raised. Ms. Rosenthal.
I'll pass for the resident.
Okay.
Can you?
Hi. It's Ms. Rosenthal. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you for recognizing me. I'm partly advocating that a resident like myself can ask a question even if I haven't gone to the Armory meetings on Tuesdays and I'm not a member of Green Aces. So first of all, I did want to ask again how many people are in the room and how many people are on Zoom right now, so I know what size audience I'm talking to. But my question is, has there been discussion? And again, if I had been there on Tuesdays or in Green Aces, I'm sure you all would have discussed this. But isn't there any way of actually increasing the number of households by, for example, adding another compost outpost at Trinity Church, given the fact that you would be moving all of the curing piles to the Armory, so that you wouldn't need to put curing piles over at the church? So has there been any discussion, for example, of doubling the size to maybe 800 or 1,000 households, given the fact that you'd be offloading the curing somewhere else? Has this been discussed? And again, maybe if I'd been there on a Tuesday or at Green Aces, I would already know the answer.
Let's see. Mayor Pro Tem has her hand up.
Yeah, I can respond to that. And to answer your question, it looks like we've got 7 people online and there are 3 people in the audience, but there could be a lot more people watching on YouTube or cable TV. And I think the idea of this is, so currently the capacity of the compost outpost at Trinity Church, the bins they have now, it can handle 440 households. If we increase this, if we have the curing piles at the Armory, that increases our capacity to 660. I think it was, as I understand it, a little bit challenging at times to recruit up to the 410 that we have now actually participating. So I think that while it's aspirational to think of 800 or 1,000 households participating, I think we should get to the 660 before we try to expand beyond that. And then maybe there could be a second compost outpost if there's space at Trinity Church, which I don't know that if there is. But I think that we need to take it in stages. And right now we're at 410. We could we could increase to 440 without any changes. This would increase to 660, but that means we have to recruit another 250 families or 250 households or shared households. So I think we just need to take it in steps and keep building it up, but not try to jump to 1,000 households yet when we don't have the capacity. If we had that many households, those food scraps right now would have to go down to the county facility. We could not compost them in Greenbelt in this large scale. So we just have to keep going, but start somewhere.
That makes sense. Okay, council, is there any further discussion?
And actually, Ms. Robles adds that there's no space at Trinity for another compost outpost.
Okay.
I do see Mr. Roberts still has his hand up.
Mr. Roberts, please.
You know, if the composting was, or a food scrap collection was a part of our regular waste collection, I think we would get a lot of people signing on to it. Not only that, but a lot of people that I talk to, they want to be able to get the end product of this because they want it for their yards and stuff. And that's really hard to do right now. So in my opinion, this should be a part of our waste collection service because this year we're going to ask people for more money for that service. So if we're going to ask for more money, we should be providing more benefit for that money. Thank you. Now we can vote.
Well, okay. Any further comment? If not, let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion does carry. Thank you. And, thanks to Compost Crew and thanks to Louisa and the staff that's involved in this. It's a good thing. So that's going to take us up to item number 14, which is a discussion on legislative priorities and actions. So, Ms. Pompey, you had requested this item be added to the agenda. So, looking ahead, we're at the end of the state legislative session. And with the Maryland Municipal League, there's been a real push to try and be more proactive about setting legislative priorities. And that trickles down to PGCMA, but for the city of Greenbelt also by, having clarity around what our initiatives are going to be and making sure that they are viable or framed as best we can will mean that we'll have greater success. So tonight's discussion and possible votes really reflect this this priority and this thinking to try and get ahead of the process. So I was looking at the diagram, the list of initiatives. Actually, there's two proposals or two pieces of documentation here. But the list that we have is sort of there are a few different things mixed up in the list, and in my thinking, there are a few things that we can kind of talk about, take out. First, just has to do with setting up a timeline for identifying and putting forward our legislative action request. And I know on the last Prince George's County Municipal Association phone call, there was a discussion about setting a date to actually have these in hand. And likewise with the Maryland Municipal League, I believe a deadline has actually been set. Although I'm not sure of the specific date, I believe it's actually before the conference coming up in July. So, looking at that list, one of the items right in the middle is legislative action request, and that's sort of what I'm talking about now. So, I would propose, we've got a bunch of things on that list. Some of them are actually referrals to advisory boards. Some are advisory ballot questions, and some will be referrals to staff. So I'm thinking that we can expand this list, sort of divide this list up between these advisory board referrals, staff referrals, and ballot questions, kind of divide those out, and then kind of circle back at the next council meeting and actually vote, because I think there may be some additional ideas that come forward for legislative priorities. So that's my proposal. But there's another memo that comes from Ms. Ruby, which is the first attachment on this item. Mr. Somerone, can you kind of give us a quick overview on the memo from Ms. Ruby?
In a nutshell, as the initial request that from a council member was, what are we doing about recycling, and do we have any mechanisms, any existing law that allows us to enforce recycling at multifamily properties? We don't have our own recycling ordinance, and there was debate about whether we could enforce this section of the county code, or the county was doing any enforcement of recycling in the municipalities. After much discussion, there's some agreement that our planning department made with the county, and DPI and other environmental agencies, that there is a compliance reporting being done by primarily Franklin Park, and there's an enforcement mechanism for that. So there's some of those regulations are being enforced. So the pressure or the sense of urgency to do something now is relieved by the fact that there is something in place already, but it may not be entirely what council would envision recycling. Those are things that we would need to talk through. Does the current legislation by the county and its enforcement mechanism cover the interest of council for the enforcement of recycling in the city?
You know, in seeing this memo and thinking historically, we've kind of gone back and forth with some of the very large multifamily apartment developments in this community, recycling. And, looking at the memo, it talks about the 2014 county legislation, which mandates that recycling accommodations be accessible. And I would contend, not to point any fingers, I don't want to do that, but some of the very large multifamily developments in the community, it strikes me that it's really not accessible. You know, if you have 2 or 3 recycling containers throughout a very, very large community, that doesn't really strike me as being accessible. So in that meeting with the county, did they say anything about what that means when we say access to recycling?
Well, it depends on who you ask in the room, right? I think it depends on who the users are. And I know such a large property like Franklin Park, the distance matters.
Names, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Depending on such a large facility, it depends on where in the property you are, whether that's outside of your building or you have to walk down the street to access the facility. So I think access is, in the general sense, I think we all know what it means, right? Is there a receptacle that we can put the recycling in, independent of where it is? As long as it's in a reasonable on premise, which it's on premise.
I think that's kind of problematic. Personally, it just seems like that 2014 legislation where it's accessible, that's a pretty low bar, but I'm not sure that low bar is really being met. I don't know, Council, do you have any thoughts about that? And some of you are very familiar with the property and familiar with the conversations that we've had over the years about this. Yeah, Ms. Pope.
They are accessible. So, you would have to physically go and bring your recycling items to the container, right? Which of course can be a little bit difficult if you may not have a car, and you have to walk from one side to the other side of the property, because some properties are larger. I'm not sure, and I think we talked about this before, as we see it here in the city too, a lot of times our recycling containers get contaminated by regular trash. So I think the enforcement or to make sure that the recycling items actually go in a recycling container. I think that's a big part. That's a big difficulty. In an apartment complex of that size.
It just seems like there should be, if the recycling containers are not inside the premises or inside each building, there should be a ratio of containers to a number of people. So if you have 3 or 4 containers in a community, a very, very large community, that doesn't really strike me as enough.
And I agree with you. I think there are I think several other locations where they could add recycling bins, right, to make it easier for people, and which would be reachable from different areas of the community. I think more, a few more would definitely be helpful. In each apartment or in each stairwell, I don't think that's going to be possible.
Yeah, and the contamination of the stream, that's a different question. That's a tougher question. I don't know, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I guess, because my understanding is, I think that for both trash and recycling, you have to take it at this complex, you have to take all of that to someplace, right? So whether it's your trash or your recycling, you're still carrying it somewhere. I don't think there's any in-building trash facilities, are there?
No, the trash containers are in front of the buildings, are pretty much in each court. There is like a big container where you just have to get out of the house and put your trash back in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like having paired trash and recycling is what you need, that anywhere there's a trash can, there needs to also be a recycling facility, because otherwise, if it's just recycling, then people will throw trash in there because, they're walking by and they have their trash. If it's just trash, then people may not seek out the recycling. So it seems like that's really what's necessary to make sure people actually recycle, is anywhere there's a trash can or a dumpster, there's also a facility for recycling.
That would be the perfect scenario. I just don't know what they, are they going to take parking spaces away? Or how are they going to accommodate another big container? Because those trash containers are large, they're really big. And I think if you put the same size, next to it, there has to be some give and take. So I don't know how that would play out in some of the courts, because some of the courts are smaller, right?
There's a cost involved, but we've been talking about this for years. So, in my development, we have our own contractors. They come and they collect the trash and they collect the recycling as well 2 times a week. So in other multifamily developments, they would have to, if they're only picking up recycling once a week or once every 2 weeks, or if it's 10 sites instead of 3, there's a little more cost involved. But so I don't know if you can sense my impatience, but I really would like to find a way to motivate all of our multifamily developments to actually have adequate facilities so that it truly is accessible. If someone wants to recycle, they don't have to go a half a mile to do it. Please.
Well, no, if you really read the program, it says that you must provide an opportunity for tenants to voluntarily recycle designated recyclable material in the same manner as solid waste disposal, which to me would mean that the bins do have to be paired.
So in talking with the county, though, when Ms. Ruby and the county, that didn't really come out clearly. So what was the resolution of these conversations between the county and the city?
The resolution, and as it was reported by Ms. Ruby, is that the county staff recognizes that challenges that are at the property, particularly the one property we're discussing. I feel freely to speak about the property because it's in the memo, it's in the public record. That's the property that we received the most complaints about lack of recycling. So I don't think there's any secret about that. So Mr. Williams acknowledged, and I'll read it verbatim for what's in the memo. Mr. Williams cited challenges that Franklin Park has faced in establishing the program, including the size of the complex, limited space at existing refuge areas for additional containers, theft of recycling containers, and cross-contamination. In the meeting, city staff shared concerns about the need for more accessible recycling facilities, education outreach and improve signage directing residents to the 3 recycling centers within the complex. Mr. Williams agreed to engage with Franklin Park regarding education and signage. That's the resolution. There's 3 sites. It's not enough. More needs to be done.
So are they going to enforce it or not? Is the county going to enforce that or not?
They are doing some enforcement. There are 3 sites, and I think this is where the question for council. You've heard the concerns. You've seen the memo. There's 3 sites. I'm hearing that some council members would like to see this pairing of the trash and recycling bins. Is there what's available? What is possible when the existing infrastructure and space of the site, and what's the will to meet those meet that demand? And is that possible? Can we enforce that requirement under the existing 2014 legislation?
Yeah, it's a tough question. I think what aspirationally council has urged the Franklin Park in particular to do this for 10 years, if not longer. I don't know, Mr. Roberts, how long have we been talking about this?
30 years. When Spring Hill Lake was built and being built, it was built as a luxury apartment complex. It's luxury. So you would think a luxury complex would be able to provide recycling for its residents. I guess it's kind of, the luxury maybe has worn off over the years. Chilling. But we should still hold them to that standard, in my opinion. So there should be a container wherever there's a trash container. Should be a recycling container. That's the way it should be. I think we really should go beyond that, and we should be asking the county, where is the recycling that we're turning into the MRF or wherever it's going? Where's it ending up now? Is all that plastic going to the bottom of the ocean, or down south, or where's it going? Is it really being recycled? Because I don't think it is, to tell you the truth. I think it's going in the trash, in the landfill. It's going in the ocean. So we should be, as more concerned about that really than, this one complex here.
Right.
I understand Mayor Pro Tem Weaver attended a site visit of
Yeah.
the recycling facility.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, I think they do a pretty good job of sorting things out there, and they create bales of the plastic and bales of the cardboard and all sorts of things. I think now for what they can't sell on for repurposing or shredding up and reusing, I don't know exactly what happens next after that, but they do. It's actually very impressive to see the sorting process, because some of it happens in an automated way, but then they also have people there sort of picking out some of the garbage, like the plastic bags and things. I mean, they have people who are helping clean it as well. It's actually a very fascinating tour if you ever get a chance to do it.
I've been to a recycling center before too. I've seen it. It's interesting.
Would you like a tour? We can set up a tour.
Oh, I'd like to do that.
Okay.
I've actually seen a private facility. Waste Management has a huge facility up south of Baltimore, and it's partially manual and partially automated. So it seems from the discussion that we do want to devote staff time into looking how the next step or how we can move this forward. I want to try and cut to the chase on this in the second memo. So we've talked about the LAR deadline, and I think it's realistic for us to have our a set of legislative action requests in May. And I think with these legislative action requests, you have the county level and you have the state level. So the requests that we come up with have to be beyond Greenbelt. They really have to have a wider impact for the county. They have to be something that would be viable for the entire county, and for the municipal league, it has to be statewide.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but that list is not showing up on Zoom. It's just showing the main agenda packet. It's not showing that particular document.
And what that's coming up, the legislative action requests, those are due May 30th, so we have about 30 days to.
So we've got two meetings.
Two
between
meetings,
now and then.
correct.
Okay.
So let me know how you want to go about approving those. We can send out what was submitted last year, and council had robust discussion about how to prioritize last year's legislative action requests.
I'd like to have it come up at the next council meeting again and see if there's some additional ideas
Okay.
and talk about it, and so that by the 30th we'll have a pretty good list. Also, with the state ones, like and county ones, perhaps our liaison, Mr. Carrington, may have some thoughts about just how to best frame these. Yeah. Yes, please.
Thanks. Thank you so much. So I wanted this to be on the agenda because I wanted this to be an opportunity for us to talk about some of our local legislative, local as in here in the city, some of our local legislative initiatives that we were interested in, because the city can't start working on those initiatives until they become official, until we discuss them. And then also I want us to start thinking about what we want for our state LARs, but also for the county. And I do think it would be a great idea if we could do a retreat with Mr. Carrington where we really talk about our county and our state initiatives that we're interested in. I think that there are some things that we can be doing. We could be a little bit more proactive on legislation. A couple of the things that I added to this list recently were some county items, one of them being enabling legislation for municipalities to use school fields, and not only fields, but facilities. This is something that Mr. Varda brought up last week during the work session. It's something he brought up last year during his work session. It's something that he and I have talked about before. So I think, this has partially to do with the, we've been trying for a long time to get access to that Greenbelt Middle School field, and nothing seems to be, we can't seem to get over whatever bureaucratic hump that there is, but something that actually could be helpful is if we had enabling legislation from the county that says, yes, municipalities can use school facilities and fields during non-school hours. So I think that's something that we need to really think about, and that's something that we should talk to our council member about that and about how that could work. And then the other item that they brought up that we talked about a little bit at that meeting was the distribution of the park and planning funding for municipalities with recreation departments. We only get around, I think they said like $210,000 or something like that. Like, it's really a small amount of money. It's a very small amount of money given the fact that we have so many recreation facilities and we provide so much to our residents that, similar to our tax abatements here, we're providing services that then the county is not having to provide, and they're certainly worth more than $210,000 or whatever it is. And while this may not be the year that we actually get them to give us more money, we have to start having those conversations now if we ever want to get that money up. Like, we have to bring it to them, start talking about it. So again, those are things that I'd really like to talk to Mr. Carrington about too, about how we can start sort of trying to move things that will be beneficial to our city and solve some problems that we've had for a really long time.
We'll have to find out what is available. I've actually spoken with him about the retreat idea, which is good. So when he returns, which is pretty soon, to find a time to do that, I think that's a great idea. It's a great suggestion.
Right, and I would like to make some referrals tonight that we have on this list.
Before we go there, I just wanted to see if I could kind of simplify things just a little bit, because what you're saying is exactly what's on that list, but there's some other things that are kind of mixed in there. So we established that the deadline for LARs is the 30th. In the conversation earlier, we know that the second legislative session is not necessarily something that's going to happen, but that's something that may happen.
Mm-hmm.
There are a number of advisory, and this list is sort of like, it's kind of mixed up there a little bit. So there are a number of advisory ballot questions that are in there. One has to do with voting districts. Another has to do with ranked choice voting. A third has to do with 4-year terms or staggered terms. So those are all possible advisory ballot questions. We've got a little time on those, so we can actually refer those to the Board
Right.
of Elections. So I'd like to recommend, I guess I'd like to make a motion that we refer those questions to the Board of Elections to cogitate on before we move forward.
I mean, that's what I just said, that I wanted to make some referrals tonight, so, yeah.
So I'll go ahead. Are there other advisory questions that may be on the ballot that we need to refer just to get the Board of Elections thinking about them?
I think the 4-year term for council members, allowing 16-year-olds to work as poll workers for sure. Council referrals, ranked choice voting, district and ward representation. I think those should probably all go to Board of Elections for their review.
Okay, I was thinking that maybe the 16-year-old poll workers would not necessarily, but I'm comfortable with that. Mr. Roberts? Or did you, I'll make a motion.
4-year council terms have already been rejected by our residents more than once. So I'm not voting to send that anywhere. And I think people are more interested now in term limits, not extending the council term.
Right. But the idea of staggering the terms so that we're not all elected at the same time.
I don't care how you do it. 4 years is 4 years, and that's ridiculous because people need to have some sense that council is going to have some reason to listen to them. And if you're on here for 4 years, you've got no reason to listen to the public.
So if you want to make that motion, or did I make the motion?
That's why people have rejected it in the past, and it's going to continue to be rejected.
Can you separate the motions then, because it seems we're not all on the same.
Well, sure. How would you like to separate it?
I mean, we can separate that one out. Would you like us to separate that one out, Mr. Roberts?
You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Making a motion?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion that we refer to the Board of Elections
Potential.
the potential advisory questions of regarding ranked choice voting, regarding district or ward representation on council, and allowing 16-year-olds to work as poll workers.
I'll second that. Is there any additional discussion? Do we want to take a comment from the public? Okay, is there any comment from the public? Mr. Orleans?
I believe I'm somewhat in concert with the mayor. This is a mixed-up list. I was confused when I first saw this, although it appeared, I think, a little differently 2 weeks ago, or whenever the last regular meeting was. Several of these items, if council wanted to do its job appropriately, council could do on its own. A simple ordinance would accomplish some of these questions. Now, hopefully, the public would be given an opportunity to speak on the proposed ordinance before council would adopt it or reject it, one or the other. But several of these things council could do now, or in some of the cases, it could have done years ago when it was first presented to council, suggested to council, and council even had work sessions on some of these things. Some of them, frankly, I'm confused about.
Do you want to comment on the motion that's
one of
we're
them?
considering
Yes,
now?
I am. One of them I
Please do.
I'm speaking to this list. And one of them I particularly don't understand, and since I'm unaware, other than the appeals board considering enlargements, additions in Greenbelt homes, the city now does not have a zoning code. So I'm confused by updates to the city zoning code.
It doesn't sound like you're
requirements.
speaking to the motion that's on the floor right now.
I am. I'm speaking to this list. So I would like
That's
an
not the
explanation
motion
of
that's on the floor right now.
what this means. What updates to the city zoning code per state requirements means.
I can clarify that.
Thank you.
That one specifically relates to Chapter 20 that needs to be updated in the city code per our recodification project. At the last council meeting, at the last week's work session, I reported that we need to make changes, amendments to existing Chapter 4, 14, and Chapter 20. For Chapters 4 and 14, those can be done by staff and brought to council for approval. However, Chapters 20 or zoning code needs to be approved by county council, and then it comes back for acceptance by council. That is for the purposes of updating our city code, which is long overdue for updates.
Mr. City Manager, I thank you for that. I just don't remember, it's been a long time, although I have a draft of the new proposed city code. I don't remember reading in the city code that, other than the appeals board process, the city has any zoning authority to be that has been codified in the past at all.
We don't, but we need to have our code reflect that we
So
are following.
update means
Okay,
create.
thank you.
Create. I would
So
like to
you're
repeat
not
the
really
council
speaking
to
to
do a lot of
the
this
question
on its
that's on
own. And for the
under
record,
consideration now.
the
So
Board of Elections
let's
has
go
had
ahead and take a
referrals on
vote.
ranked choice voting for years now.
Ms. Pope?
Are we just talking about these particular questions that could possibly be on the ballot?
Yes.
Or is there any other? Because I know in previous years, the process was slightly different.
I mean, for me, what I'm trying to do, I would like the Board of Elections to advise us on these items. So, ranked choice voting, what would that look like in this city? And is that something that, just so that we have more information about what these things are before we make the decision to put them on as advisory questions. If we decide if we're going to use, if we want to put an advisory board regarding district or ward representation, what does that actually mean for Greenbelt? It's not such a simple question. Are there 2 wards? Where are the wards? Where are they located? Does that mean that now we're going to change our form of government? Are we going to have you know what I mean? It's a big question. So that's what I would like them to look a little more into it, because I think sometimes it seems like that's a simple thing, but it's actually kind of complicated.
Because we've talked about
and
it
that's
before.
why, I feel like could look into this better than we individually can and provide us with sort of reports on that and a recommendation.
Yeah, I think
Does
it's
that sound
important
right?
to do that. It's these questions are really huge. You're really talking about changing the form of government. But so we have a motion, we've had some discussion. Any additional discussion to actually refer this to the Board of Elections to give us a report reflecting what the implementation of these measures, how that would actually play out. We've asked a lot of the Board of Elections this year. But let's go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. And we divided out the question about staggered terms as well. If you're talking about having districts, and that changes the election of the mayor somehow. So the question of staggered 4-year terms or staggered terms sort of comes up. So I'd like to make a motion that we also refer that along with the other questions. Is there a second?
I will second it if you're asking for 4-year terms.
Yes.
Is that what you're asking for?
Yes. Staggered though, so not all at the same time.
Okay, that I'm not so clear about, but the 4-year terms, I will second that.
Okay.
If you amend your.
Is it a referral to refer that to the advisory board?
Yes.
That's what he's asking.
I understand that. I'm just saying, staggered was not in the first, when we first discussed it, the word staggered wasn't in there. It was simply to 4-year terms, which we've discussed plenty of times, and most of the municipalities around us are all going to 4-year terms.
Yes, they are.
Because 2 years is pretty challenging, and some of us know that. But that's what I'm saying. I understand where it's going.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, that passes. So then coming back to this list and what we can do quickly, because I know Councilman Niesel has stuff that she needs to do. So we can talk about these individual proposals, and I would like a little more time for council to think a little bit more, and if there's some additional proposals, we can add those in at the next meeting and begin to vote, I guess, to allocate staff time to them. Although, typically, staff would sort of investigate the feasibility up front and would actually kind of weigh in on whether or not things are feasible. Yes?
For the 4-year staggered term, who was the second? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Ms.
count.
Pope seconded. It was, 4-year terms.
Did you not take the staggered out? We were just talking about it.
It's
4-year
4-year
terms, then my vote is
So not
yes.
staggered.
Okay.
But I think they'll probably talk about that anyway.
And we
Mayor
can-
Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just want to, because I think one of the things that's confusing about this list is that it's a mix of things that are state, local, and things that are not actually priorities, but just like discussion items like legislative actions requests. So my question is, so the public utilities tax, that's a proposal for a local legislation about a public utilities tax?
That's correct.
Okay.
We've kind of, Mr. Summerall brought to my attention the fact that several of our neighboring jurisdictions here in Prince George's County have this telecommunications licensing fee or public utility fixture tax where on each light pole, we've got vendors who have antennas and different things on those utilities, those fixtures. So it would be helpful for us to be able to regulate that a little bit more. And by having a fee associated with the poles, in some cases double poles, and being able to actually get rid of those double poles. And since it's something that our neighboring jurisdictions are doing, I'd like to move ahead on the local level to put an ordinance in place. Mr. Summerall?
Go ahead, but I was mostly just wanting to make sure we were clear on which ones were local and which things, not necessarily discuss each one. But, yeah.
And in fact, we're sort of getting close to 10 o'clock. I don't know if it's council's will. We have 2 more items on the agenda. We don't really have that much on the agenda for the next council meeting. I mean, we could actually table that and go to council activities. And
I would like
please.
to clarify a couple more things, because again, I wasn't actually, I was just asking a simple question, is that a local legislative issue? So the business overlay for business account, is that something that you would like, is that something you're looking for local, is that something for local legislation, or is that something we need county or state authorization for that? The third.
All the items that I put forward are in fact local.
Okay.
And that has to do with creating sort of like a community.
Again, Mr. Mayor, you want to wrap up. I'm trying to just ask my clarifying questions about not.
As well, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my list here of which ones are local and which ones are county, and we can discuss them more later. Ms. Pompey, for good cause eviction and rent stabilization, are you thinking of those as passing local ordinances, or putting those as our priorities for county or state legislation?
Good cause eviction would be county, because we don't have any jurisdiction over evictions, and the rent stabilization would be local.
Okay.
That would be a city initiative.
Yeah, my purpose with that was just to make sure that all of these were identified, at least for myself personally. I can share this about which ones are local and which ones are not. And we can discuss them more later, but those were not clear to me what the meaning was.
Yeah, and I'd like to present some additional information. And I think other council member may have some other ideas of things to add in. So I'd like to kind of move most of this to the next meeting above the referrals we've made.
It might be a good, do we have any upcoming work sessions that are open? Because I feel like this might be better suited for a work session.
We've got quite a few of them.
Yes, June 4th, and after the 9th. What is that?
Or after the ACE Student Awards, if we wanted to, we could talk for an hour or so
I
about
think we
this.
did. I apologize.
Go ahead.
I think we determined that we should not do that because it kind of closes the window on celebrations.
Yeah, we talked about that, yeah, I agree with that. So we don't have a work session until June 4th?
June 4th, June 11th, June 18th.
A bunch open
and
in
then
June.
30th. So
Okay, well, I would be okay with June 4th, I think is fine. Well, we have to talk about the LARs before then, but I think to talk about local legislative initiatives, I would be okay with that. Would you be, June 4th work for you?
That would work for me. All right, I'm okay.
And then, yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. So let's move item number 15. I think we could kind of table that, go to council activities, and we can wrap up in about 15
I think we
minutes.
probably should formally move I move to the 2023 community questionnaire results to the next meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, well, let's go ahead and move to council activities.
Up, and if anybody added any in the last few minutes, then I didn't get them, but this was from earlier.
Body want to talk about it? You know, it was just really, really great. All of the Earth Day activities was powerful. So much going on. All of the events were well attended. I was surprised. I went over to the middle school and for their Earth Day activities, and they had a STEM fair going on from 1 to 3 as well, and there's a lot of people over there.
That PTA means business over Dora Kennedy Persian School. They're a force over there, so they're really good at organizing.
Did anyone visit Spring Hill Lake Elementary School during their cleanup? No.
I don't think I don't think they let us know about the timing. So that should be added, the Dora Kennedy cleanup and STEM fair. You were at that?
Yep.
I just wanted to mention the truck touch. That was just really successful. Like, it was amazing to see all of our city equipment out there, to see all of our staff out there. Like, everyone had big smiles on their faces, like interacting with the community. All the kids were so thrilled. My husband was thrilled to ride the cherry picker. It was like such a highlight for him. So it was just great. Like, people were so happy to be there, and I think it's so important that we're able to sort of provide events like that for the community where people can come together. And you know, it was really like our city at its best. It was just great. It was just great to see it. Like, just so many people, and you know, happy kids, and our public works staff too. I also just want to mention, like, they and our recreation staff worked so hard on Saturday. It was like every event I went to, I was like, I just saw you at that event. Like, I mean, they were all over the place. So as was Mr. Summerone and council. But I think, you know, when I see our city staff, like, really, you know, on the weekends, you know, working just as hard, being everywhere council is, it was really impressive to see. So kudos to them for all of that hard work. So an awesome Earth Day event. I understand they had like something like 50 trees to get in the ground, and they got almost all but like a handful of them in. Yeah, the staff was telling me they had to like shoo people away. They're like, yeah, we're done now. Like, because folks were just ready to keep on going, which is great. What a great work day. So.
Yeah, and speaking of awesome, you know, that first pitch that I threw out, you know, the catcher signaled that I should throw a curve, but, you know, I contradicted him, and I went back, and it was awesome.
You're going to take up Major League Baseball now?
I could do that.
Get a call?
No, I haven't gotten any call. My agent hasn't gotten back to me.
They haven't called you yet?
I hear the Orioles have some pitching problems this year, so that could be an in for you.
Or I could add to the problem. One thing that did happen on Monday the 21st is we did have a call. The four city mayors had a call with Chief Green, and I'm going to ask Mr. Summerone if he can kind of put together a synopsis. Also, I understand that there may be a hearing coming up on the fire chief's proposed budget, and we're talking about maybe trying to put together some thoughts.
I think the hearing is May 1st. It's a budget work session. It's with the Committee on Public Safety, so that'll take place May 1st at 1:30. So it's this Thursday.
It's Thursday, which is also during the day though.
It's during the day. The mayor and I were on the county legislation website to look at their agenda. It's on the agenda. There's no files attached to it, which it's Monday. The meeting's on Thursday. We expected to have it online, but I'll monitor for what gets uploaded to the website and send that out to council.
Thank you. Any other council members want to comment on their weak pitches there? I'm sorry.
No, you make these comments and they're really not necessary, because I think all of us, no, but seriously, we all did our best, and I don't actually appreciate the comments and the bragging about it. But because I don't think it's accurate. But anyway, Cap Capiston's celebration of life that on the 22nd of April over in Bethesda was very nice. It was, I think, organized by some of his colleagues from Beltway Plaza and just sharing memories. They did, I think, actually have already planted another tree and got a bunch of donations that'll go to the Memorial Tree Fund. So that, and I think there will at some point be a plaque. The plaque is not there. The tree is planted, but the plaque is not there. So there'll be some sort of ceremony that will make sure that that information gets out. But it was a very nice event. So that's the only one I'll comment on.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, please.
If council could highlight the Armory public engagement, tomorrow is our
I can't believe I didn't
one.
mention that. Yeah, that was great. So that's been going really well. It's great to see so many people engaged and people that, lots of old faces and familiar faces, but lots of new faces too. So that's been great. But the last session is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. here in council chambers. So that's when we're really, folks are really going to be narrowing down what options they want to see. So it's kind of going to be the place to be. And even if you haven't participated in other sessions, you can jump in at any point. So, anyone who hasn't come, come tomorrow. It's fine. There's easy entry points. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, please.
Well, I was just wondering if there's any opportunity to engage online about the Armory discussions. I've talked to 2 seniors in my sale visits who would like to be involved but have not had a way to get to the actual meetings. So will there be options in the future?
For the tomorrow session is challenging because they're breakout sessions. I think for tomorrow, because a lot of the group is going to be in one group, I think we can do. We can record it, but two-way communication will be challenging. But we can record it. If the individual wants to reach out to us, we can make a transcript for the recording available. But tomorrow's session is consensus building, and there's a lot of hype. We're excited to get to consensus about a concept.
Yeah, but it's not over. If someone has missed all the sessions and still has some thoughts, there's going to be an opportunity for input.
In the the report's going to come back to council, so council can decide to have its own work sessions or enact whatever process you want to have.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, so tomorrow evening, will the consultants give sort of a preliminary introduction to the groups before they go into their breakout groups?
I can ask the consultant to do that.
Because what I'm wondering is, rather than having people go back and listen to a recording, I think the idea is to be able to want to share information. So if, for example, we don't try to record a transcript of the whole thing, but record whatever introductory presentation they give and put that out there, and then solicit people can give feedback on that, sort of not in the breakout sessions, but through whatever means we can do that via email or something. I mean, I don't know what their presentation is going to look like, but that would be a way to have them get the same introductory information and then be able to provide feedback without being there in the breakout groups.
Okay. Well, if there's no further discussion, I'm so sorry.
We also had a hand raised online about the legislative question, and we moved past that.
Okay. Mr. Orleans.
Thank you. I thought I heard tonight the suggestion that the meeting tomorrow night was here in council chamber, and I distinctly remember last week it was announced that it was not going to be here in council chamber. It's going to be upstairs in the community center, and I hadn't heard that corrected, so I hoped officially it could be corrected.
Mr. Bill Orleans, thank you so much. Mr. Orleans is correct. I apologize for the mistake. We have conflicting activities, and we need to move tomorrow's meeting to the community center. The time remains the same, but we will be in room 201 at the community center. So that's the multipurpose room. Mr. Orleans, thank you so much for catching that. There'll be food and prizes.
Prizes?
Yes.
Oh my. Let's see. There's a question in the chat.
I think Ms. Rosenthal wanted to comment on the legislative priorities, and I suggested she should just email us because we're going to have that as a discussion again as a work session in June. But I think from what I gather, it sounded like she had some comments about future initiatives and future local legislation to propose. And Ms. Davis also commented she thinks the state may already have allowed 16-year-olds to work at the polls.
Right. Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay. Well, if there are no further things to do right now, if only we had a motion to adjourn, we could
Move to adjourn.
Was there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.